Hey gang, I got something for you. We all know email marketing is one of the few activities that directly leads to sales for our businesses. I love sending messages to my list and watching the responses, leads, and sales come in day and night. But email marketing has been beaten and bruised by a lot of shady marketers over the years. That's why I listen to a podcast called The Email Marketing Show. Rob and Kennedy teach psychology-based email marketing in a way that is enjoyable for you and your subscribers, making email valuable and extremely effective. The show is fun, no matter what your email savviness might be. Subscribe by searching for the Email Marketing Show wherever you get your podcasts or visit emailmarketingheroes.com.
Consulting can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but the way that we think about consulting is it is bringing your expertise, your knowledge, your insights, your advice to help typically organizations. That's the world that we work in. All of our clients are consultants that work with organizations, might be nonprofit, for profit, might be Fortune 100 or a small innovative startup. But the whole idea is they're helping to solve problems, or they're helping to get their clients a result that they desire.
Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. Today we are here with Michael Zipursky of Consulting Success, which you've been doing for a while now. Isn't it like 13? I think LinkedIn, I'm looking at LinkedIn right now, it says like 13 plus years.
That's right. 13 years at Consulting Success, and then about 23 years. So I did about a decade of building consulting businesses before starting Consulting Success.
That's wild. So you know a thing or two about consulting. We can assume.
Yeah. I live and breathe consulting, and over 2 decades of day in, day out, either building my own consulting businesses or helping others to build theirs.
All right. So when people think consulting, they don't know what to think. Because how would you define consulting? Because it could be literally anything.
Yeah. I mean, my parents and my family still don't understand what consulting means. And I remember, at family events, or you meet people, it's like, what do you do? Oh, I'm consulting. I use this anytime I'm crossing the border, going traveling at customs. What do you do? Consulting. They have no idea what that means, right? So I
import export, right?
Marketing consulting or something like you do marketing. Because you're right. Consulting can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but the way that we think about consulting is it is bringing your expertise, your knowledge, your insights, your advice to help typically organizations. That's the world that we work in. All of our clients are consultants that work with organizations, might be nonprofit, for profit, might be Fortune 100 or a small innovative startup. But the whole idea is they're helping to solve problems, or they're helping to get their clients a result that they desire. And typically that requires deep expertise, knowledge to be able to troubleshoot or to help them to see those results faster or in a more effective way than if they tried to figure it out themselves.
Okay, so how is it different from a freelancer?
You're asking a great question, right? So we make a big distinction even with somebody who calls himself a consultant and what we call an entrepreneurial consultant or a consulting business owner. So most freelancers and most contractors are very focused on delivery of work. They are all about doing the work and doing, in many cases, a very good job at it. But what they don't typically pay much attention to is building a business. So building a real asset, building a pipeline of ongoing work, really creating systems, processes, or productization in their business so their business can generate revenue, can generate income, can generate profit without their direct involvement, or they can actually start to put people in place or, again, processes in place that create leverage for them. So it's of course, you still need to deliver and do great work, but when you're an entrepreneurial consultant, a consulting business owner, you're spending time not only delivering work, you're also spending time on your marketing, on business development, and on thinking about actually building a business.
So it's not just like a workhorse.
Correct. There's nothing wrong with being a freelancer. The challenge for most people when they have that mindset is that they tend to experience feast or famine. They tend to have that income roller coaster where they might
Mm-hmm.
have one great client or work, and then all of a sudden there's a change and that client stops. Either it's a planned stop, like you've completed the work successfully, or something happens and it's unexpected. And now you don't have a pipeline of business because you don't have a business. You are doing the work. We are working on that client, but now you have to try and find the next client. And so you go up and down the income roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
and that creates a lot of stress, a lot of doubt, a lot of self-esteem
Absolutely.
issues. And it's not a very sustainable business model.
All right, so I think I understand this because what we do at Goldstein Media, we used to always have one or two projects going, and not so much of a pipeline. Now we do residuals, like we do oh, come on in, we'll maintain your website, we'll may do this, we'll do that. Like the bread and butter is really the actual work. I always found,
Sure.
but then the residuals, at least I can count on a certain amount of money a month, saying, all right, at least we got that. If something dries up over here, at least we have that to fall back on if we need to. I was always wondering that. I was always like, it's consulting, and there's high level consulting and the knowledge base you bring to the company, and then there's freelancers and contractors. And I'm like the people who go to Creative Group or the Boss Group, and they
Sure.
work for. So they're pretty much working in a company.
Oh yeah, they have a job. And this is why
Yeah.
people that sometimes call themselves consultants. Yes, you're doing consulting work, but there's a big difference between the mindset and the actions and the behaviors of, again, what we call an entrepreneurial consultant, somebody who is actually not only delivering consulting expertise and knowledge, but they're also building a business, right? And
Exactly.
that's a very different way of thinking, a way of acting, and it
Mhm.
creates a very different result. One is doing the work and getting paid for the work that you do. The other is thinking about how do you develop an asset, a system, a business that can
Mhm.
create income for you and can create an impact for the clients that you serve, even when you're not directly involved. So that way you can put teams in
Mhm.
place, you can have systems in place or structures that allow you to create a lot more leverage.
We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Hey there, it's Jason Falls. If your company or maybe one of your clients sells to marketers, you look for advertising channels that guarantee business marketers are paying attention, right? Let me introduce you to the Marketing Podcast Network. You're listening to it right now. It's a network of podcasts all about marketing. So 100% of MPN's audience are marketers. Reach them by advertising on the Marketing Podcast Network. Learn more and find our media kit at marketingpodcasts.net.
So you've been an entrepreneur your whole life, it seems like, right?
Pretty much,
So
yeah.
what's the best thing about being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurial consultant, or just entrepreneur in general? Like what's the best thing that you can think of when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's really about freedom, number one. And if we go deeper than just that high level word of freedom that everybody kind of gets excited about,
Yeah.
it's that you really are your own boss. And you can
Mhm.
be you're like the worst boss ever, right? Like worst that you've ever had it in employment life, or you can be the best. Like ultimately, what I find most exciting about being an entrepreneur and building businesses is that I can create whatever I can envision. And if we
Mhm.
are encountering challenges, those are challenges that I need to figure out, or with our team, we have
Mhm.
an amazing team, but collectively, we always get to explore and overcome new challenges. But whatever you
Mhm.
want to structure, you get a structure. So I'll give you an example, Seth. Like we have clients that left very high paying, high six figure corporate jobs to become consultants. And the reason they did is because they wanted to, for example, spend more time with their family or travel the world or whatever it was, even pre COVID. And the fact that they can do that, like they can take a whole bunch of time off, or they can stop their days early to be with their
Mhm.
kids or do whatever, like they can still have a great business, make a great income, make more than they did before, but do it in a way
Mhm.
that works for them. So that to me is what's really exciting about entrepreneurship and about building a business is that you get to structure the business however you want. And of course, it still has to be in a way that makes sense for your clients and delivers them the impact and
Mhm.
the results they want. But ultimately, you create whatever you want. To me, that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's like having Legos. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it's like having Legos and not following the directions, building this big contraption. It's like, oh, okay, great. I built
Yeah.
that. It's my thing. And in a business mindset, it's like now you can market it and bring your expertise elsewhere. What's the scariest thing?
You know, I'm pausing because I don't view there's nothing jumps out to me as being scary. So if I put myself probably going back many
Mhm.
years, I remember the challenge that I had, or many challenges in many situations of dealing with imposter syndrome. And am I good enough
Mhm.
to do this? Especially when it's a challenging situation. arose, like a client wasn't happy or something didn't work out the way I thought that it would. And then, of course, times where you wonder about your income and is this going to be sustainable, and it's just better off going and getting a job. But I haven't had those thoughts for many years. So I think that's where I was. And I think where most people are at one point or another. What I've learned over the years is that every challenge or every fear that you have, that's completely normal, right? So entrepreneurship is about having challenges or facing challenges. It is very common for entrepreneurs to worry all the time. But the fact that you are worrying about things also means that you are then typically preparing for things and you're not becoming complacent. So to me, I don't view anything as having a fear. There's a ton of challenges, many areas that I'm constantly learning in, and we'll try something and it won't work. And we go back to the drawing board and we figure it out and we just overcome it. But I don't view those things as fears. They're not scary. They're just part of being in business.
There you go. That's the best answer I think I've ever gotten for that question. So thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
All right, and here's another one that can go any which way. What is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? I love seeing people's expressions when I send it.
What came into my mind right away, Seth, when you asked that question was a pen and paper. Because I always have ideas, I always want to write things down. My mind, there's so much happening in my mind, probably sometimes too much, that if I don't write things down, then it often will disappear, right? But the reason I pause when you ask that question is because the truth is that I don't always have a pen and paper with me, which is why I would say my phone, but I'm not a big fan of using the phone all the time. And I try and really be conscious of that at present, especially when I'm with my kids, to not be using my phone or not have it kind of
so
consume
hard.
me. It's you're right. It's a challenge. A phone is like crack cocaine. It's just one of these things that pulls you in, right?
It's the worst.
And yeah, it's terrible. It's
and then the kids get it and they get sucked in early. We had nothing like this as kids.
Anything to capture your ideas. I find that some of the best ideas that I have tend to come into my mind when I'm not in the office here. When I'll be out for a walk on my morning run. Like even this morning, I had a bunch of ideas that I wanted to share with clients about what's happening in the world right now. And so as I was running around the park, as soon as I got back to the house after my run, like I need to write those into my phone. I open up Google Keep, put those notes in because I want to capture them. So I think that, to me, being able to capture ideas is probably one of the most important steps that any CEO, entrepreneur, anyone in this kind of space should be doing consistently.
Good for you, not trying to run and do it at the same time. That could be disastrous.
I gotta be honest, I almost paused for a moment and stopped my run to put the notes in because at times I'll forget things. But I was like, no, I'm just going to keep thinking about these in my mind. When I get back to the house, then I'm going to do it. So
the worst is when your kid comes up and starts talking to you and it's like, it's gone. And I'm like, oh no. Michael, where can people find you online and talk a little bit about your 4 books?
Sure. So yeah, everything is at consultingsuccess.com. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of free articles, resources. We have the Consulting Success podcast. We have videos on YouTube. We have a compilation of our most popular kind of resources and best practices for consultants all in one place. If you go to consultingsuccess.com/blueprint. And of course, you're welcome to connect on LinkedIn as well. Just shoot a little note. Let me know you heard me from Seth's podcast. So I know who you are.
Michael, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Everyone go connect with Michael on LinkedIn.
My pleasure, Seth. Thanks so much for having me.
That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice. We're on all of them. And these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys.
Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.
This podcast is part of the MPN, the Marketing Podcast Network. Another great MPN podcast you'll enjoy is PR Talk. a show that digs into the modern side of public relations through interviews with thought leaders, authors, and the media on PR Talk with the Marketing Podcast Network.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.